Guys, what's going on tonight? It's 8 o'clock on the East Coast. You know what that means. It's time for Proper Royals Live. Thank you for joining me tonight. It's been an absolutely crazy week. I want to say thank you to everybody that reached out to me last week. If you're watching live, it probably means that you were here live last week, and I missed last week. First time in my calendars over here. I think first time in the I know in 5 months I've been doing this show. Life just caught up to me. I have the Proper Royals business. I have a restaurant consulting and advising business. And I'm a professional musician. And so I have these 3 businesses. And man, it all came to a head this week. So it's Tuesday night right now. 1 week ago, plus a day. So Monday, a week ago, I drove up to North Carolina, 500 miles from Jacksonville, Florida. And of course, traffic was awful. So I get in at 3 a.m, going to work a long 12-hour day on Tuesday. And Tuesday evening rolls around. And man, I'm 8 o'clock. I'm in a restaurant that's paying me very good money for my services to be there. And I just couldn't make it. And I really thought about it because I read things that say, like, stop apologizing. Like, what do you have to apologize for? You're busting your tail. You're earning it. You're grinding. You're making it. But what I have to apologize for is how many of you all clearly tuned in and expected me to be here. A, because I promised I would. I told you I would be there and I didn't. But second, like, I guess you look forward to it. And that's a really fulfilling, cool thing. And then many of y'all took the time to reach out to me and just make sure I was all right, because it's abnormal of me to miss. So I am indeed all right. I hope I got back to everybody. I think I did. I think I messaged everybody back. But so I spent a week up at a resort property in North Carolina helping out with their restaurant operations, a holiday weekend, down a manager, 2 weddings, and grand opening of a new fine dining restaurant. I worked my butt off, man. It was great. I was happy to do it. I was happy that it was over after a week. We kick off Easter. I kicked off Easter brunch Sunday morning. And at around noon on Sunday, I left and drove home to Jacksonville, Florida. And then Monday night, which was last night, I had a gig in South Florida, in Punta Gorda, Southwest Florida, playing music at the Celtic Ray Irish Pub. If you're ever in Southwest Florida, check them out. So I drove 5 hours to Punta Gorda yesterday, played a 3-hour gig, slept about 6 hours, woke up this morning and drove back to Jacksonville, Florida. And here we are doing the show tonight. So I tell you all that, A, to give myself some explanation of why I wasn't here last week. But tonight, we got a great guest, Charlie from Reagan Renee Royal Pythons. And one of the topics we're going to talk about is family life work balance. Like me, he's a family man. He's a ball python man. I assume he has a job. I don't know. We'll find out in a moment. But we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about business investments as well, growing your business and what to buy when, and what his opinion on that is. We all have individual circumstances and opinions, so we're going to talk about that tonight as well. And the other cool part of my day, check this out. So in the midst of all of that, I-75 goes through, Central Florida, and it veers west. So I'm traveling I-75, and I got this business deal with Jeremy Bod over at Bod's Exotic Reptiles. And I can't tell you what it is. It's his project and it's his deal. He asked me to come in on it, and it'll be unveiled for Daytona 2022. So that's coming. But part of that deal was that I would pick up 2 female pied ball pythons. And when I was there before, I didn't have the tub and the bags to transport them. So I'm driving through and I call him. I'm like, hey, what are you doing Tuesday morning? He's like, I'm working, man. That's just like everybody. I'm working. And I was like, yeah, no problem, man. I get it. I'll try and catch you next Sunday, another time when I'm down. And he goes, well, you can meet me at the job site. I'll bring the snakes. And I was like, all right, cool. So this morning I got to hang out with Jeremy Bod for just a little bit, picked up some new female pied ball pythons. They're yearlings. So anyhow, I'll do a video on those. Pretty cool. One is medium white and one is very low white. Like I even asked him, I was like, is this thing inchy? And he's like, not a chance. I was like, cool. It's a beautiful snake. So it's been a heck of a ride. I'm really exhausted, but I'm really fulfilled. And one thing that happens when I'm driving is that I get a chance to just clear my mind and think with no interruptions. So I've got some exciting business challenges for myself coming up as well. But that's all a different episode. So speaking of working and making some money, tonight, you see the shirt I'm wearing, it's over here, BandSReptilia. Tonight completes the first initial relationship with Chris Shelley and BandSReptilia. He's been fantastic for a sponsorship for me. And I started this sponsorship program called the Proud Partners Program. And I really like the word partner because that's really what I aim for in a sponsorship, is somebody that will benefit from obviously being a sponsor. I mean, they get advertising and that stuff, but I want to get to know somebody. I want to know what their thing is. I want to know what it's about. You all see the show. We meet, we know each other. The audience knows each other. And Chris has been really, really great to work with. He's been incredibly supportive. He sent me a new shirt when the other ones, I hope I wasn't ungrateful, but they didn't fit. What was I going to do? I couldn't just eat a whole bunch of hamburgers until they fit. He took the time, didn't even tell me he was sending another one until it was already on its way. So really proud to have done business with Chris Shelley at BandSReptilia. Let me tell you about him. He's breeding over 140 ball pythons this year, as well as blood pythons, Australian pythons, Mexican king snakes, and other colubrids as well. And he's been really, really great for this community. And he also is bringing in the chipper cocoa into Pennsylvania. He's the distributor regionally for Pennsylvania. So, Chris, thank you so much. It's been an incredible venture. I look forward to doing business again in the future with you. You've been a great partner. And anybody that's interested in being a partner, part of the Proud Partners program, if you think my brand can bring value to your brand, let's talk. You know how to get a hold of me, Instagram, properroyals@gmail.com. We'll do it as well. I've been on such a tear. I haven't seen any of the comments, so forgive me. I think we're where we need to be, and it's time to get on with the show. So Reagan Renee Royal Python, excuse me, you got 3 R's and 1 P. Reagan Renee Royal Pythons. This is Charlie. He's from New Jersey. Welcome to the Proper Royal stage. Oh, he's got a guest with him. All right, hang on here. We're going to meet a couple people here. I'm keeping them holding for just a second. Those of y'all that have seen my videos, I always say that my channel is about my journey from my family's journey from ball python hobby to ball python business. And that is where Charlie and I clicked. Charlie, how are you?
Good.
Welcome. Who do you have with you tonight?
This is the Reagan and Reagan Renee Royal Pythons.
Hi, Reagan. How are you?
Good.
She wanted to hop on. She couldn't resist the chance to get on YouTube. I don't know if you know if kids love YouTube these days. So.
Yeah. Reagan, you got 18 other people watching as well as me. So you got like 20 people right now watching and checking it out. You want to say anything? No? What's your favorite pairing you have going right now? What are you looking the most forward to?
Probably the clutch that we just put in the incubator, right?
Oh, you got a clutch already?
Who's going to be the dad on that clutch? What is he? You know what he is. Say it louder. You can say it. Her favorite snake out of the collection is a banana Mojave clown. His name is Cupcake, and he and the female he was paired with this year, both first timers. She just dropped a clutch of 4 good eggs.
Cool.
So he's gonna be a dad here soon, hopefully. So
very nice. Congratulations, Reagan. That's awesome. So he's your favorite, and he's gonna be a dad, huh? All right. How long have you been working with your dad on the snakes?
you know? Do you know since you were how old?
Since I was 5.
Yeah. So we're a little over a year now, actually. We're not that long in this. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah. Do you remember what kind of snake we started with? What was the first snake?
Corn
Yep.
snake.
The corn snake. Yep.
Then
Okay.
then boa.
Yep. Then ball python. Then boas.
Oh, you got boas now too, huh?
Yeah, we're not really doing that so much on the business side. It was more of a personal interest that who had the interest in the boas the most.
My mom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mom,
Okay.
yeah.
Have
So
any of them gotten frisky or bitey or anything?
No, the boas are good, right? Yeah, so she's up to 4 now. She's got 1 male and 3 females. So we did structure it in case we do go that way and start breeding. Then we did structure it in a way that would be conducive to that, to have a male and 3 females, and they're all in the same wheelhouse, but
Oh,
wasn't
cool.
the primary plan. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay.
All
So
right.
we're gonna hang out with us just for a minute or two here, and then she's gonna run up to bed so we can get rolling and talking and stuff. But she wanted.
That sounds cool. So, well, tell us about your operation. Give us some stats. What are you working with? How long have you been at it? What's the goals here? And just give us the brief overview of you all.
We're at as far as ball pythons go now, I think we're in the 54 range. Some of that is inventory. There are babies that are going out this year, but we got, I think, what? No, 50s. She's saying 90s. Not yet. You wish. Maybe by the end of the year.
Right.
So,
how many are you breeding? How many females did you have breeding this year?
We have 7 females breeding this year, and we think at least 6 of them will go. The 7th one, we're not so sure. She looks to be reabsorbing. She's going backwards on follicle size. So, but we think 6 of them are going to go. We got the number 5 moving into prelay shed right now.
Yeah,
number 6, yep. If we got the last, if we got the signs right and everything through the ultrasound, the probably the 6th one will go into prelay shed any day. So.
Congratulations, man. 6 out of 7 would be outstanding. I've got 13 that I bred, and I'm putting the over under. My wife and I were talking about this last night. I was like, how do I engage the audience to like play a game, like an over under game with me? I need ideas, audience, of how we're going to I don't want to monetize it. Like I can't give away, we're not going to turn my website into gambling stuff, but I think the over under is 10 for me. Is where I'm thinking it's going to be. Good night, Reagan.
She's already like halfway up the stairs.
Yeah, nice, nice. My boy is my son has just turned 10, and he's
awesome.
Yeah, he's excited about him, but then he also is like, a dog chasing a squirrel. Like, oh, this is cool. That's cool, and
She's a big part of what got us started in this. If I back up to the story a little bit, as she mentioned, the corn snake was the first thing. Her and my wife had a friend they were FaceTiming with during the pandemic that had actually a ball python. I think a boa as well. And they started doing some research. They wanted to try out a corn snake first, just because they're so active during the day. You can see them out and stuff like that. It's just a different experience. So we wound up 1 turned into 2, and they're up in nice vivariums in the middle of our living room. With now they're bioactive with plants that we got from somebody that we met through Instagram. So
how big are the vivariums that you have your corn snakes in?
50-gallon, like exoterras with the opening front doors. So and so that's kind of where the journey started. And then she got really big into it, watching Snake Discovery on YouTube.
Yeah.
Every child's toy, as you probably know now, is opening an egg or a blind bag of some kind anyway. So she got huge into that. And then the next thing she went on to was Billy from Mutation Creation.
Yeah.
So then she's watching him open eggs, and he was opening eggs like every other day during the height of the pandemic, right?
I remember. I mean,
yeah.
So like Chris Hardwick was putting out like a full video a day during the pandemic. And then, I would watch Billy, like, I don't know if they still do, like when they were like keeping score of who was winning for like the whole season. And it was like, shoot, I got nothing else going on. I guess I'll watch this, Yeah.
So we got the first ball python, and then every other day she's sitting at the table going, well, what if you put this with it? She's hearing him say lesser. I think lesser het lav was a huge part of her vocabulary at 5. She's like, what about a lesser het lav with a clown? And she's like just spouting stuff off. So, that's when we decided as a family to start looking at. I think by then we had 2 ball pythons. We had a like a banana super enchi, and we had a cinnamon pied, I think, female. Oh, and cool. then we started looking at part of what we're going to talk about. We started looking at projects and things like that. So
yeah. So tell me, I'm starting. Somebody made a comment, and I don't know if you saw the comment earlier. I'm starting to think you and I are wired pretty similarly. So where was the aha moment when you said we could just have ball pythons, or we could have ball pythons and we could try and make some money at this?
Yeah.
Where was that moment for you?
Oh, man. I think,
or was there a moment? I mean, how did you arrive at that conclusion?
Yeah, I don't know. There was one particular moment. It just started to build as we looked at, even back when we got the 2 corn snakes, we looked at one's an A male, which is, albino in the ball python world, right?
Yeah.
And the other one was anery, which is our exanthic, right?
Yeah.
For lack of any better way to compare them. And I started looking at the colors there. And then my wife said she wanted a ball python. It's a different experience than the corns. The corns are wiry. So she said, the ball python you can just hang out with. It's very docile. Like they're, you guys know the energy. So I started looking at those, and that opened up a whole. I mean, my, stepbrother and I, we were 13. We had a normal ball python.
Okay, yeah.
We had it at least until I moved out. A couple of years later. So I didn't know that all these colors had happened in that time. I mean, that's going back almost, not to date myself, but almost 20 years. I didn't know all this stuff happened in that time.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is I was 20 years ago, I was 22. So I think I was 21 or 20. I got 2 normals. And like you said, man, you had normals. And then I remember like one dude in town had the albino in town. Right. That was it. And, that may as well have been a Lear jet. I wasn't going to have it. That's all there was to it. So, and then, in my mind, my first one of this like modern go around was a banana as well. And so anyhow, it's kind of funny, but go ahead.
So the morph market calculator. Oh, we're back. The morph market calculator starts to get your attention at that point. You go, if I can make this with that, and then you start to see the prices, and obviously that starts to catch your eye. You're like, wow, there's like a lot of money going around in this.
Right.
And then I think actually a big part of it was watching people like like a Billy from Mutation Creation talk about the business side and talk about how well they're doing in it, and you start to go, wow, this is something that could be, we never really planned for it to be a full-time thing. And I think at this point still we don't talk about it in that way. More of a side gig. But, we started looking at that point saying, okay, well, what direction we want to go, what we want to make. And now I'm starting to get into the kind of one of the topics we were going to go into already. But,
go ahead. Yeah.
We're looking at it as projects. We're going, it'd be cool to make a dreamsicle. It'd be really cool to make our own this. And that's the big difference though between, and this is what I was telling you earlier that I like that you put as the topic, choosing investments though. Yeah. That's the difference between picking a project and picking an investment, because in the beginning we picked a couple projects and we listened to some of the advice that was out there on structuring projects, get a male with 3 females in it and stuff like that, but they weren't necessarily investments. And I think there's an important differentiation there that we should probably talk about.
There is. And I like to say the problem is I don't bring any clarity when I say it. For every person or every family, every group of operators has got to sort of agree on what the goal is. And there's a lot of people, honestly, in the audience here, one in particular, I won't call it who it is, but their outlook is a lot more even hobby versus business, whereas mine is business, little bit of hobby, and maybe there's other people that are even bigger. And it's always important to remember in the context of whose needs are what and whose goals are what. And it's all relative. Nobody knows what the next person next door has in the bank and what they're willing to spend on it, you know? So yeah, go ahead.
No, so I think it's important that when I say there's a difference between picking a project and an investment, it's not a knock at all on picking a project. It's not a knock at all on people who, there are a great number, maybe more so, probably I would argue more so, that are doing this as a hobby and not as a business, and that's okay. I had a hobby a couple of years back. I wound up turning it into work as well. I find ways to do that, I guess. But yeah, I was in the brewing industry, and before that, brewing for me was a hobby, making beer, right? And I spent tons of money on it, knowing I was probably never making a dime, you know, and that's okay. It's something that you do that you enjoy and and spend time on. It's a labor of love, and that's fine. And
it doesn't fit into a spreadsheet, but it still brings you value. Yeah.
A lot of people look at ball pythons that way, and that's okay. For us, it really has morphed into much more of a business, though, and we're much more intentional now from the investment side, and we do screen out things that we might even like that we don't buy necessarily because it doesn't really fit into the plans. So,
and the one thing that and again, this goes back to each unique thing. Running numbers to me is a blast, man. I'd do that, like go play poker with buddies or run my own numbers. It's a toss-up. I don't know, man. Like, so that might not be rational to other people, but they've got to, people got to realize that we each have different kicks, you know? So
it was a huge draw for me. I talked about earlier that the girls in the house got into it, out of thinking that they're beautiful animals, and I have the same draw. But then playing with the genetics, probability, stats, these are things that are in my wheelhouse anyway, things I gravitate towards.
Right.
So that became a big attraction for me anyway. I like trying to calculate the odds of things. I like trying to determine. Somebody tried to call me out in the comments earlier on it. But trying to project even what you might get and what the values of each animal would be, a lot of that stuff. I try to do sales projections based on something that, you don't have that much control over. But
well, and maybe not, I don't know all businesses. Any business I know, it's not about nailing the projection, but it's about trying to get as clear of a crystal ball as you can. Inevitably, you're going to smash that crystal ball. You're not going to hit it on the penny. But the better you could get at predicting the future, the better decisions you can make now with what to do with your money. And it's all a guessing game.
Right.
But you're going to be more accurate than if you don't guess at all. And you get better the more that you guess at it. And I've known that, frankly, how I have my job with that advising role with the restaurant is because I'd written their budgets for the past 6 years. Every budget I write, I've gotten better and better. And now it's like, boom, boom, boom. I know it's going to happen. Right. Throw a pandemic in, things get weird. Throw some inflation and a labor crisis in, it gets weird. But those are the things I'm talking about. At least you have a baseline of what we planned for. And then you can see what the variance from the baseline is and make decisions based on that too. So people that don't get that about the projections and why it's exciting to make the projections, that's why is that we can structure a business plan around it.
I mean, you need something to work off of anyway. You can't just say, who knows what the odds are going to be, so just let it ride. Like, I had to have some kind of a target or framework.
Unless it's a hobby. And then
Right.
Yeah. Very good. So hang on. You said something really interesting. You said you used to brew as a hobby and now you brew as your job, or you figured out how to make money on it?
I did. Okay. So that we'll run. I was,
viewers, I'm going to bring this around to ball pythons.
I'll run through the bio. So I got out of the military. I was brewing beer as a hobby. I did turn that actually into a full-time job. I started at a startup brewery, worked up through the ranks there to the point where I was actually running their, running the entire brew house side. This was while going back to school. I finished up school, and I had now had a career in manufacturing. Right.
Okay.
Brewing. That's what brewing is at the end of the day. And some people do it as a hobby, and some people realize it's a manufacturing business. And I have to treat it that way. So,
and I'm sorry, I've always told people there's a huge difference between, I always use retail and food. I know I could manage a retail outlet because most retail is non-perishable and t-shirts don't spoil. If I can manage a perishable, shelf unstable item, I know I can manage non-perishable. And that's the same thing you're dealing in. You're dealing in something very fresh, something that has to be controlled very, very closely.
So I'm no longer in that industry. I moved into an industry that's got it's still manufacturing, but it's a much more I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. I don't want to get too into personal stuff.
Okay.
I'm in chemical manufacturing now. We make cosmetics, self-care products, sanitizers, things like that. So very different. But you know, it's a great gig in the sense that I've learned a ton through it. I've gone back to school again since doing that to continue to further myself in that. And then also I bring a perspective from manufacturing and production to this, because at the end of the day, this is production.
That's right.
You're not as in control as you are necessarily with machines. You can't automate everything because the animals are going to do what they do, and nature's funny like that at the end of the day. But you look at buying a breeder very much in the same way as making a capital investment in a piece of equipment that's going to produce a product. So you can take a lot of the same concepts and bring them over. So,
well, and I think too, how I was going to tie it back to ball python. So I don't know if I talked about this before or not, but as a brewer, you'll know what I'm talking about. I have a certification of certified sommelier through the Court of Master Somms, which is sort of a parallel line to the brewing world. But for those of y'all that don't know, you know, Charlie was dealing in very, very specific chemistry with the brewing and the yeast and the temperatures, very fixed atmospheres. And you start going, wait a minute, temperatures, fixed atmospheres, sanitary conditions. The last thing you want is anything growing in your beer other than the yeast that you put in it with the sugar that you put in it. And I've always found that fit very, very similarly to the ideally clean, ideally micromanaged temperatures and conditions. Also, I find from a manufacturing standpoint, you know, a kitchen is a very fast manufacturing operation. But
production as well, for sure.
Yeah, workflow. How many steps? How many steps am I going from here to here? How many sides of ranch miles do my servers have to walk? And how do I know? Because they're using calories every second that they're doing that. And it sounds crazy, but there's a finite number of calories we can use until we fall over. And I don't want them using it up on stuff they don't need to. So all of those are things that I put into my operation as well,
it's
man.
The same type of stuff that I think about, even when we look at how do we feed, like what order are we going to go in? And I drive my wife crazy because I talk about, we have to standardize how we're cleaning here. Like we got to, like, what are you talking about? Standardized work practices. Like this is how I clean and this is the music I listen to. Get out.
Yeah. Well, and it is. And I had the great pleasure and benefit the past 6 years of working for a man and him being a mentor to me, but he worked for 25 years in Toyota manufacturing. Right. And we don't have to go down the rabbit hole of the Toyota way, but I actually, on my docket of videos to make, is what the ball python hobby can learn, or what has Toyota taught us in the ball python hobby. And one of them, though, is this lean. Americans call it lean. It's not exactly lean, but it's this lean theory of the fewest steps for the highest excellence. And it's not about the cheapest. It's about producing the best. You could spend money to produce the best as long as you're going to figure out a return and then be able to repeat that outcome. So anyhow, that's in the docket. That's all. Man, like I say, we're wired pretty similarly on those outlooks. So let's go back to the fun parts. What are some projects you're working on? What are things that you love about your collection? What are some animals that you're just incredibly excited about to be working with? Sure.
Well, I'll talk about the first project we really got into as a project here, and that was the Candy Pie project. So.
Big fan, by the way. You caught my attention. Like, I immediately found myself going, where can I scrounge up some of this money from? And then then we go back to the investment and discipline part. But go ahead.
Well, so that hits kind of my first criteria when we start to talk about what are you going to invest, choosing an investment, right? And it hits one that's I think is the same hobby or business, and is it something you're passionate about and that you're going to put time and energy into? I think that is important on either side. So that was something that I look at that, and it's something I believe in, and I don't know the entire market sees it that way, and I have to temper that a little bit, and I have some other projects to offset it. But I like the contrast. It's not a knock on lavender. Lavender albino is beautiful. I have a lavender. It doesn't get as purple as fast as the candy stuff does. Yeah. And I like that. Contrast, I think, is a big thing. And I don't think that's just me. I think that is a market thing. I've heard the big dogs say it. I think the contrast is important.
I'm very bullish on candy. I wish I had more. I've only got one. She'll breed next year, but probably all of those will be holdbacks. And they'll all be hats, but I'm going to hold them back. What's that?
I'm laughing at Pied and Joy's comment.
Oh, yeah.
We've been throwing out the best albino a lot, yeah.
Pied and Joy might be one of the best snake names that I've heard. I don't know you very well. I'm an old rock and roll guy, so the Stevie Ray Vaughan Pied and Joy is brilliant, right up my alley. I appreciate it. All right, candy pie.
Yeah, I think the name of the game at this point in it, is getting some codons in it. The combinations that are there for you have your what do you call it, Starburst and things that are in lavender. I just don't. A lot of those combos you haven't seen them yet in candy, and I think they're going to look just as good, if not better, or at least on a same level, or but different. So the name of the game, for us is exactly that. So our first pairing actually was our first investment level kind of route that we went. We got a breeder male candy pied, and we got a pied candy female. The male was proven, the female was ready to go, not proven yet. And that actually became clutch one for us. We got 6 babies out of that.
I was going to say, sorry, let's go back a year. How many clutches did you have last year?
2.
2 clutches. Right, same as me. Yeah.
A little bit unexpected even. We didn't think we'd even hit any clutches until this year. But when we got the ultrasound, we thought we'd be doing it the fall thing, right? We bought the ultrasound in about March and put it to 2 of the females, and they were ready. So we said, here we go. We're doing it. So we ordered the incubator, and we started throwing snakes together.
Good.
So he was our male for both those clutches. He went to a big fire pinstripe yellow belly female who I don't know today that I'd invest the same way, but at the time was a proven breeder, was going to help us get some production up and running, and was lower risk than say putting money in on a pied candy breeder size female.
How big when you bought that male, double visual male?
Yes.
You don't have to say, I'm guessing several thousand. How many other snakes, how big was your collection at that time other than that male?
We were on
fish.
They were ball pythons, probably 7 and 8 or 8 and 9. So
okay. So early. So sub 10 by ball pythons, you and your family go, boom. We're going after it.
We're going.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
We grabbed another female that is Vanilla Enchi. She's 100% het pied, and she was 50% het for candy. Originally produced by Ozzy Boyd. I actually got it from a guy, Morphed Ambitions, out of North Carolina. But we got her too, also very near breeder size. She was at like 1,400. I mean, arguably in plenty of people's collections, breeder size.
Plenty of people go for it,
She didn't go last year. The other 2 girls did. She's going this year. She's the one that I think is a couple of days from pre-lay shed. So we'll finally find out this year if she's going to be proof for candy or not. So,
and it's a little bit of a spoiler, but I see on Morph Market you have candy pieds available. So I'm guessing you haven't gone and bought 3 more trying to flip them. I could connect the dots.
Yeah.
Without getting too specific, if you have, or if and when you do, will you cover your investment on that snake that you decided to jump in on at only 10 ball pythons?
Yes, our first clutch was 6 eggs that all went to term. 4 visual candy pieds in the clutch.
You got 4 doubles?
2 pied het candies.
Oh yeah.
With one over the odds, right? It should have been like 3 and 3. One of the goals, one of the things we wanted out of that were female visuals. And I'm really big on female hets, but this is a project where I think, like I said, a lot of the work now isn't getting codoms in it. Arguably, I know codoms are more important than males, but here's the thing. I can put that male double visual that I have to a cheap couple of codom female, like the pinstripe fire yellow belly female I described earlier, get a male. And if those females that I got out of that clutch, 2 female visual candy pieds, are up to size in a year's time, I have really good odds of getting codoms back in the project. And I can do that year after year there. Right. So we did hit 2 females that we're keeping from the first clutch. And then we have 2 males that are the ones listed. And then we've sold one of the pied het candy males already.
Gotcha.
Out of that clutch. And the other pied het candy male is listed as well now.
Fantastic, man. And yeah. So
thanks.
The thing to me, it seems like in this hobby, in this industry, whatever word we want to use for it, is sort of the staying power and the longevity to see things through. I don't know that means that somebody will get rich or can quit their job over it, but for it to be a hobby that pays for itself and lets you really exceed to, I mean, let's be honest, a candy pied producing those, that's a pretty high level of accomplishment for a double recessive, you know?
The ROI in this is not like a lot of other things I've seen. That was a big thing that stood out to me. To answer your question on that clutch, right? I mean, in the 2 females alone.
Really quick to interrupt. ROI is return on investment. Those that aren't comfortable with those sorts of terms. And to Charlie's point, if I buy, which I have, 14 guitars, no matter how long I leave those guitars laying next to each other, they're not going to pop out 6 other little guitars. So I've got to go and physically do the work to get that money back versus creating an environment where they will create an opportunity to make the money back. So, all right, continue, Charlie. Sorry, I wanted to set the stage.
Yeah, great point. So to reinforce that, right, in the 2 females that we hit alone, you know, in terms of, now I'm not selling those, so it won't be revenue, but in terms of just value, right, that we have now in the rack, it actually made up, you know, what was spent on the 2 breeders.
Right.
On top of that, in what the market value says right now on Morph Market for the 4 males that were hit, it almost comes very close to what was paid for the 2 breeders. Right. So you know what I mean? So
that's in 1 year. That's in the first go around.
And that's in less than 1 year for us. We bought them in February and they were sellable by January of this year. So now they haven't sold yet, but
yeah. And for it to be repeatable, it'll be a year. So in that way, it's a year, within this year.
But to see that kind of return in a year's time is, like we were saying, there's not a lot of other industries where I see that.
No,
a lot of
Bitcoin
or even anything.
Well, and then you have more. You still don't control Mother Nature, but when to your point about Bitcoin, we have science and rationale backing what we're doing versus who knows what on Bitcoin. And I actually am a believer in Bitcoin in the long run, but the day-to-day, I just have to not even look at that and just go, all right, I'll open it up in 5 years and see what's going on with it. So,
but he said that he has 2 candy pies and he'll probably never breed them together. I think that's 100% spot on. I don't know why you would need to, because there's candy pies like the 2 that I have sitting on the market now, just sitting there. So when we talk about investments and things like that, I don't think making more candy pies really does much for you or anyone, right? So pure just candy pies at this point. If more people are interested in the project and those start to sell out, it's different. But I think the name of the game in that project now is people are looking for the next thing. Whether he's talking about, I think later he goes on to talk about quads, and I'm doing a little bit with mixing my candy pie stuff into candy clown stuff. I just got a little bit of a gateway into that. But whether it's that or quads, or even just, like I said, breeding that male to something with other genes that you want and putting them back to the female, it makes a lot more sense, I think, than putting the 2 together.
Well, so there's there's two to me. There's two arguments there. One, what are you building for the future? That's a hobby and business question. And what can you sell now? And maybe, and I'm not going to call out price points. That's up to you if you want to. Maybe instead of 2 at one point, if you have 6 that you can afford to bring it down a little bit, and you find where the market meets, and then suddenly you're driving revenue. So again, to me, that goes back to what some of the needs are. Like, if I want to make this my job and my livelihood, I need revenue. I need a plan for 2-3 years down the line, but I also need revenue now, kind of thing. I'm curious, Jeremy, throw some context on that for us. Is that a scientific genetic thing you're talking about? Is that a market-driven decision you're talking about? Put it in the comments, Jeremy. Jeremy is who I stopped and met and picked up the pieds from this morning down in St. Pete, and now I'm here in Jacksonville today. Charlie, in our little kind of discovery conversation, you said that and I didn't know the context. I didn't know what you're talking about. So fill me in. You said that there's some controversy or question about the candy pied. What were you alluding to?
A little bit. So what it is the fact that the candy gene is allelic with albino, I think causes some people some confusion. And so I tried to put a couple of videos and things just through Instagram to shed some light on that, to try to help people along to understand it. And then also it's a little bit of a risk from the buy side if the seller is unknown, or if the seller doesn't sound like he's knowledgeable, doesn't have any albino in their, whether he has albino in their collection, knows enough not to have put them together or to know if he did. Things like that. What I mean is, when you have candinos versus albinos and candy side by side in a clutch, it can be very hard to identify them. Yeah. And you'll have to wait. If you're playing the candino game, you have to wait a little bit for them to age to be able to tell what's what. Versus, like, we're very different. I don't have any albino here. Not that it's a knock on people who do candino stuff. There's some beautiful stuff there, and it's very tempting because there's already a lot of codoms in albino. There's advanced albino females out there.
Easier. Yeah. Yes.
And it's so tempting. And I actually tell people that as a selling point too. If you already have an advanced albino pied project going, you can now take a candy pied male and drop new colors into all of that
right away. Yeah.
Right away, which is phenomenal. Again, you just have to be deliberate like anything, right? And track things well and know where your candino possibilities were and where your albino possibilities are.
I agree with you. And I got you now. And it's one thing that I regret. I have one het albino in my collection, and I won't mix it with the candy. And it's for what you're talking about, of it's not just losing track of things, which a good breeder won't lose track of things. But once it gets out into the market and the generations of when it trades and the pyramid that starts to happen. But to your point, maybe guys like you and I are providing a service by being transparent about, here's our decision with candy. Here's why you should trust buying from us versus just buying, here's somebody pricing something at 10% less than mine that you've never heard of. And that whole mentality has been a huge drive of why I have this channel and why I'm so transparent. Like, sometimes on the show, people are like, I don't really want to talk about that. And I'm like, well, I will. It's okay. I'll talk about me. I'll talk about money on my end, kind of thing. So, I mean, I always try and respect it, but that's always something I've tried to build. That's been a driving force for this YouTube channel, of people knowing what I have and what I do.
That's why I throw every pairing on Instagram. I have pictures of the parents on those listings on Morph Market, because I know when I was buying, it gave me pause at times. If somebody who didn't have a lot of reviews in where I don't, on Morph Market, I was a little concerned. Oh, I don't know if this. I'm like, the eyes look pretty red. This might be a candino. It might not be a candy yet. Like, I wasn't sure, so I chose to actually. I paid a premium to buy from someone who definitely had animals priced higher than many others on the market, because I knew that I was going to get exactly what I wanted. So yeah, and that's a great point. And I also, I used to resent. There was a video from Justin some time back.
he's like driving in his car, just ranting about pricing, and it came across almost snobbish to me. And I respect Justin incredibly. So let me get all the way through before everybody gasps and goes, "Wait, you can't say that." But his argument basically was, if it's an animal that you need to get a project going or a breeding plan going, almost who cares about the price? Because if you're paying the market price for it, you're going to be able to get that return on your investment very quickly. And if you don't buy the animal, you never will. So who cares about a couple $100 either way? And I remember being like, man, have you ever been so hungry in your life that you don't know where your next can of beans is coming from? And you're telling me not to worry about a few $100s? I get his point more now. I would say in the middle, buy with quality and buy with who you're trusting from. And yes, price matters. We all got bills to pay. We all got lights to keep on. We all got kids to feed. Like, you can't just be like, oh, price doesn't matter. Come on, dude. Of course it matters. But I get his point, and that's encapsulated in what we're talking about right now here.
I'll go a little bit really quick. I don't want to suspend and make it a candy pie show, but I'll go a little bit where we're going with it. And Jeremy Bullett's touching on it too a little bit in there about candy clown pies. I think that's an awesome direction to go. That's really exciting. And then the other thing that we did, so I picked up a leopard double het candy clown, 50% het pied, 1.1, male and female. And what I'm really excited about is about a year and a half older than that male and female. I have the spot nose double het female too.
Oh, wow.
So I'm excited about having a leopard and spot nose mixed up in that project. I think high contrast things like the Batman or something like that with candy is where I want to take that project. And it's a lot of other people are ahead of me on that. I see people doing black pastel is getting into a lot of candy stuff now. You see a lot of leopard stuff has been moved into candy. And then I think the other one I want to work is a blackhead. I just hit some really cool blackhead stuff towards G-Stripe and DG project that I have going too. But that would be my plan for the mother from that clutch for the next go around would be to get my candy stuff into that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I have to see what I hit this year. I should have some leopard pieds that I hit, and I love candy pieds. So bringing the leopard in to accentuate those purple, the blacks are going to go purple on the albinos, which is killer. I also have a chance to hit a super blackhead genetic stripe this year as well.
Yes, I saw your post. That was exciting.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's a slim shot. And matter of fact, they're still pairing right now. So like literally this moment they're pairing. But that could be an interesting entry into the candy, produce double hets with those, because they would all be blackhead, all double het genetic stripe candies as well. Yeah. Which, all of us collectively start doing the math. All right, 3 years, what's that going to happen? So I'm not sure. I got to see what I'm working with come, when she's up to size, when it comes around.
So I don't know if we want to come back around to talking about choosing an investment, but that's one of the big things that I have too after being passionate about it, right? Is same thing you look at with any industry. You have to look at the supply and demand side, right? Is it in demand? And that's the one thing with the candy project. I love it. And a lot of people are getting me excited talking about it in the comments, but they don't seem to be fast movers. They're not flying off the shelves, which is interesting. And again, it might be where I'm at in the project. Like I said, there are many candy pies out there and people are trying to do the next thing. But then the other thing to look at is how much competition, right, is out there too. So the thing that I think is attractive about it on the flip side is there's not that much of it sitting out there either. And there are combos that I have even in hets that I have, with 1 year in the game, have the only combo of that out there.
Yeah.
So, which is very, I think, attractive too. I mean, when you talk about, I don't think anyone here would argue that clown is not a gene that's in demand. However, I think there were 1,900 clowns available on Morph Market when I looked today.
You told me it was 5,000, I believe it.
So just when I just typed in clown on Morph Market and just saw what came up in North America, I think it was.
There's always that thin line of tried and true, and then trailblazing. So tried and true is good, but it's on generally speaking, a downward trajectory, which is okay if you got the volume. I mean, if you got 10 times the amount, you might think an average lower price. Versus
Rollback sells banana clowns all day. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't have the means at my size to compete in that space. So my next criteria that I'm looking at is, can I bring something new? Can I do something different? Do I see an angle that I want to go that's a little different than what I see out there? That's kind of the next thing, right? Where can I differentiate?
Why do you think? Why would you? And I'm not challenging you. I want to understand.
Yeah, no.
Why would you say that you couldn't compete in that space though?
I don't see. I guess I could, but I don't see as 1 year in, right, that I'm going to progress to where I want my goals by putting up more just banana clowns, just being like, I'm going to make banana clowns. Revenue is important up front. They're money makers. If I'm going to go sit at shows, they'll sell. I think that you'll do great to bring in money to your business and to feed your other projects. It's not a knock. I am trying to keep the size and scope limited, and I have most of my goals are on triple recessive, or at least the same odds as triple recessive and up. So if I'm sitting here doing pairings for Candy Clown and waiting, and there's, or not Candy Clown, Banana Clown, and there's 400 others up there, Will Banks can sit on inventory and he can turn over Candy Clowns I keep saying Candy Clowns because we talked about so much banana clowns as they go, and it's, you know, he's got a constant revenue stream and he's got other stuff going out next month.
Right.
I don't want to wait to be the now I'm the one that finally gets picked out of all the ones out there. You know, right. I'm just trying to it's a differentiation thing for me.
It is, and and I get that, and the reason I ask that is, again, that comes down to defining goals, the uniqueness that each position of us are in. You talked about some space limitations. I'm right there. I got a 12x8 room. That's it. I only have X number of slots, and I have to define for myself what those slots are going to be occupied by. And for me, I do place a fairly high value on I do believe I could sell clowns all day because the market is so hot and popular. So that's the tried and true part. And then the trailblazing part over here is going to be my super blackhead genetic stripe candy, right, you know, kind of thing. So
I say all the time, I'm a year and a half in this. What the hell do I know? So,
and I'm like 2 years. I'm right there with you.
I'm afraid that I would have to go to shows to do that. And it is no knock on the people who are hustling at the shows and selling at shows. It is, when we talk about work-life snake balance, I don't have time in my repertoire right now to be at shows. I just don't have, I just know my limitations in terms of I work many hours at the day job during the week. Yeah. So, I'm not in that space. So my pairings this year are, and I have a lot of stuff that's in single gene clown.
Sorry, before you move on, you're exactly right. The trade shows are a grind. The overhead is a lot. You got to look good at a trade show, or else you're just the next, Joe that's got to chase the market to the bottom versus being the one that's attracting everybody. And that's why I put so much work and effort into YouTube. But to your point, how much time I think this is probably 250 videos I've done in under 2 years. That's my time and my grind of reaching and building an audience that I hope will love what I make this year. Because if not, I'm in a bind kind of thing. I gotta learn new stuff. And the reason I bring up some of that is to make all those different points of choosing. Is it going to be high dollar, low volume? Are you willing to jump into the trade shows, which I'm not yet willing to? Okay, if not the trade shows, how much time are you going to devote to social media and building and cultivating an audience? I love doing this show on Tuesday nights, but man, that's all part of it. This is the work that goes into it,
Yeah. So, and it's not a clown thing. I have many of my going forward projects are in clown, but they're multi-genes on top. And that's all my point is too. Where can I differentiate and do something different with clown? It's not, it's different from the first three of the 1945 that are up there. The first 300 are in a couple of genes. It's OD clown, pastel clown. how do I do something that's different from those that catches somebody's eye in that grouping, right?
Yeah.
Like any business, how do you differentiate? Where are you gonna be?
So there's a neat business study that was done that I think about a lot, and it plays to what we're talking about. And it doesn't clarify anything, like a whole lot of discussion. It's just philosophical discussion, but this is factual based. Scientists studied where people spend the most amount of time per aisle in the supermarket. And the funny thing is two levels of funny. One is that it's on the salad dressing aisle. Hundreds of selections, right? I mean, just overwhelming.
Yes.
What am I going to have on my salad? But what do they buy? Like 70+% of the time, they end up buying ranch. They spend all the time there looking, overwhelmed, perplexed. I'll take the ranch. And that's why I try and keep a balance of not being afraid of a saturated market, but also using that to fuel what is going to differentiate. And so, like I say, I pose that philosophically, and in the restaurant, I use white Zin as that example. I'm a certified sommelier. Why in the world would I ever sell such horrible juice as white Zin? Because people buy it. That's why I would sell it. Then I could go buy the $250 bottles of great first growth 20-year-old Bordeaux's.
Well, it's divided, right? Is there demand for it? If they're still flying, then it's a good space to be in. But again, it comes down to like I said, when I look at a rack space, I look at the transaction. I'm doing all mine through Morph Market. The shipping costs me the same. The feeding costs me the same to make a $300 versus a $3,000 animal. So that's where I'm targeting. You know what I mean?
Very good.
So most of my pairings this year, and like I said, I own Banana Mojave Clown I mentioned earlier. We own a Cinnamon Pied still. But a lot of our pairings this year are, and it's a little cheaper to come at these things this way. I have pairings next year to try to hit double and even triple and even really low possibilities of hitting like quad recessive animals. But the pairings this year are multi-gene clown to multi-gene pied, multi-gene genetic stripe to multi-gene clown, to lay out hets that if I hit those visuals next year, here I now have, I can come up to a point 2 years down from there where I now have, I'm keeping the best het females out of that. If I can get the male made in the next 2 to 3 years, he's going to then go to all those females, and I'll start putting out higher level combos is my goal anyway, or the plan. So
yeah, the next challenge that I think you and I are a real big hurdle challenge that you and I are going to meet in our journeys is when we start maxing out space, which this will be the year. I'm going to have to decide, all right, what female do I give a break to, and what would have been her male partner? And that male, I'm going to shuffle out and make sure that I upgrade that slot, because each slot has, I don't know what it is, but it has some value that I can't screw around with and that I have to protect. And I can't go falling in love with some of these things. If I do, I got to turn it into a pet and put it in the pet bucket. But on the business bucket here, that's coming this year is what's gonna have to happen.
We find every time that we think we've got enough rack space for a little while, it's full before the next racks show up, the way the lead times are on racks right now. So there's 2 more rows coming for what's behind me, 7 more rows coming for the hatchling rack over there. And then we're counting it up and we're going already on holdbacks from this year. We might need to start talking about the next order. So that's becoming pricey. And then the thing is, and we've already talked as a family about, well, what if we take the next room too? And we're okay with that. The thing is the time then too, as we keep talking about, do I want to put that much time into that many, feeding that many animals and cleaning that many animals? And
Right. So. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your facility. That's such a almost a pompous word. Tell us about your room. Tell us what you're working in and your situation with your snakes.
Yeah. So we've finished out a portion of we finished out the whole basement. One room was used as more of an office. This was the bigger space. It was an open area that became the snake facility. We very much intentionally designed it as a facility, tried to maintain a high quality of finish as we did the room 2, which adds very little value, I guess, in the at the end of the day to what the quality of the snake is. Plenty of people with homemade racks and things like that producing far superior animals to what we have. But we had a vision, a way that we wanted the brand to look, and then also a bit of it's just a OCD. I need clean and organized spaces, and then some of the stuff we talked about earlier, lean manufacturing and things like that. So right. I needed it. When I went back to school during my time working in the brewing industry, I went back for chemistry. So from that, from working in labs and things like that, from sanitation and from brewing, I wanted something that was easy to maintain and keep clean. So, man, we went waterproof finishes and along the floor and made everything easy to just mop down and spray down. And so we went that way. So very easy. That
would be my argument. Yeah. Brighter, well-lit spaces are cleaner spaces. Non-porous spaces are cleaner. When I see racks made of, and there's no knock, you got to do what you got to do to get by. Anybody, but the melamine with the particle board center, you can't spray that down. You can't properly sanitize that because it's going to absorb the moisture and it's going to become a haven for bacteria, which is going to spread. And it doesn't mean that your snakes are lesser quality, but it raises the risk to the snakes of being lesser quality. So the one thing that I will say that I found I just recently upgraded to ARS racks from my own PVC racks. I chose PVC specifically for being able to sanitize it. I could spray the whole thing down. I could dunk it if I wanted to once I took the heating off of it. The one thing that I do like very, very much about the ARS racks is the efficiency of cleaning and the way that they, even down to just being able to slide a tub out without having to hold on to it, it frees up your hand to do more things quicker while it's open. So there's an efficiency that comes with them that I found very, very valuable. And then to your point, you can, I think somebody just called me a traitor for getting away from the DIY rack. That's okay. It's Mark, he's a good guy.
There's some nice DIY racks out there too. And like I said, nothing that I say is a knock or the right way or anything. It's just the way that I went.
check out Kai's racks. They are beautiful. Absolutely. And you talk about a clean, meticulous guy, but Kai is,
Yep. Kai is actually, you asked earlier where it's from. Kai is in the same town.
I thought so. Cherry something or other?
Yeah, Cherry Hill, yeah.
Cherry Hill. I was looking at when I saw it on your Morph Market, I was like, man, am I just dreaming?
No, we met once in a Petco parking lot. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And he was a very stand-up guy. I bought a snake from him. It was beautiful, man. It's an awesome animal. We wound up, because it didn't fit the breeding project actually just recently. Don't tell him, is he still in the comments? We wound up selling it to somebody. But it was no knock on the quality of that snake, man. That thing was a stunner. It just didn't fit the direction we were going with projects.
I always call Kai the candy man. As soon as we say his name, he'll pop up.
He's got candy stuff going too. He was one of the people that was, that I saw that was inspiration on that. Yeah.
I got to fly up to like New Jersey, Pennsylvania area. There's got to be 6 or 7 of y'all in the audience from Pennsylvania. There's Jeremy Warfel. There's Phil. There's Chris. There's yourself. There's Kai. Who else am I thinking of?
There's quite a few. Yeah, there's a guy John from Wonder World. There's a JAS Genetics. He's up a little bit farther north. We got another guy, John from Danner Constrictors down in South Jersey. That I bought a couple animals from him in the Candy Project. They just did a breakfast out.
I want to go to
out at the buffet, man, the smorgasbord. Yeah, I missed it. We were Reagan and I were battling with the flu that week, so I didn't make it out there. But
I don't know. Once I get a little money flowing in, I got to. I need to. That would be a blast to do. Hey, we got. It's funny. Speaking of metrics and arcs and studying things. Usually between 850 and 910 each week is kind of our highest viewership.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got 37 people in tonight.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah, those of y'all just joining. This is Charlie from Reagan Renee Royal Pythons. I also would be remiss if I didn't recognize Chris Shelley at BandSReptilia. Great breeder. Go check him out. He's been a real supporter of the show. Next week, we have Mark, and I think he's still in the audience. I'm not sure. We have Mark from British Columbia Balls on as well, doing really cool stuff out on the west coast of Canada. He'll be joining the show next week. And after that, I'm wide open. I got to start booking again. So you guys let me know who you all would like to see on the show, and I'll start booking those. Let me address something real quick here. Enlin1234 says, my melamine racks are difficult to sanitize, elbow cough. Hey, we all have to start with the very best that we can. And the only thing worse than, doing everything perfect and all that is finding all the reasons not to do something. Melamine racks meet a need, and they get us in the game, and they get us where we need to go to and where we need to be. So just like I drove, and I'm not equating any of this to melamine racks. I was a salaried manager for a pretty big company, a restaurant company, and people used to knock me, why do you drive around in that clunker? You know what? I drive around in that clunker because it gets me where I need to go. And then I was the first dude on the team that bought his own house because I drove my clunker versus going and buying some high-dollar car. Put your resources where it makes the most sense to you. It's no knock on it. It's a choice. It's a goal. It's a vision that was important to me that I pursued. You know what I'm saying? So there we go. And thank you for being here. Don't no elbow coughs needed. You're all right. So 54 snakes you got. What's your workflow like? What's your day? What's a typical day with you and your family and the snakes? As far as I'm not talking about, when you watch TV, but how does how much time do you spend with the snakes? How does family vacations work? These are all things you have to consider now. Work, travel, any of those things.
Yep. The daily grind is this. I'm up and early and out, out the door for work pretty early. My wife takes care of getting Reagan out to school, and then she hits the snake room. She might go do some shopping first, do some other stuff around the house first, and then she's in the snake room. So she does most of the cleaning and stuff as far as the day-to-day, man, taking sheds and poops and stuff like that out and spraying down tubs and all that. She really does a lot as far as that goes and keeps us moving in that regard. We do, I come home and we do like just family time for the most part, unless Reagan sometimes wants to come down to take snakes out. Yeah. She's at the point now when she first got into it, she was into all of it. She would clean tubs with me. She didn't care. She spent hours in here. We're at the point now, we've since started school and we have friends. And so we're at the point now where it's nice when we have new hatchlings or when eggs drop, when we're taking Cupcake, our favorite snake, out, when it's time to clean tubs and stuff. So this has become boring. Which is fair at her age, completely understandable. So I was spoiled as long as I was that she would come down and be like my tub cleaning buddy.
I would say anything repeated and laborious from my 10-year-old. So,
but I'll come down every night after bedtime and I'll do a run through. I'll do a second check. So they're actually getting 2 checks a day because of that. When I was checking during the day, but usually my check is pretty easy. This it might be like, 1 urate, 1 poop, and I'm and it's just because we're so on it. We're 99% of the time just spot cleaning. We do very little with the racks and the tubs as far as having to do deep cleaning. Somebody destroys a tub.
Gotcha.
We'll pull with the ARS. We'll pull and just swap them a whole new tub, sink it, and we'll scrub it and put it back in later.
Right.
And that's kind of how we handle that. Feedings we do every Sunday. We do half the collection 1 week. Everybody eats except babies. Everybody eats every 2 weeks. Yeah. So we do half 1 week, half the other. It makes feedings not take me as long on Sunday night.
You do live or frozen thawed?
I am 98% probably now frozen thawed, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to get huge into the controversial topic that is live or frozen thawed.
What works
people get crazy. Whatever works for you, man. At the end of the day. People tell me how much easier it is to do live. To me, for me, and for what I do, frozen thawed. I buy in bulk. I don't have hours to dedicate to keep up with rats. I buy in bulk. I put it in the freezer. I feel that with a good system, the way I heat up and stuff like that, and how we set things out ahead of time to start thawing in the fridge, out of the freezer into the fridge the day before, it doesn't take me any longer to do the thawing and feeding frozen thawed than I see it taking a lot of people doing drives to pick up rats from their rat guy and coming back, especially in rural areas and things like that. It's always right here in the snake room. So I'm okay with it. At the size of our collection, I haven't noticed anything that's really slowing me down as far as that goes. We have a couple of stubborn ones.
I got to interject for just a second. I don't know if he's still here. Tito at Tradesman Exotics is here in Jacksonville. And I'm not going to talk. I don't want to blow any cover, and I don't know if I get the same price as everybody else. It doesn't matter. Man, Tito provides a service where I have a handful that do need to eat live, or maybe not need to, but I'm not going to fight them at this moment. Man, he breeds ASFs, delivers them. So the challenges you were talking about handling live rats, breeding them, and the time problem of going to get them, gone. It's amazing. So if you guys are in Jacksonville or in North Florida, or anybody that ever sees this video in the future, check out Tradesman Exotics. I don't know how he makes the business model work, but I'm thankful he does. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I Venmo the funds, boom, they're out my front door.
I'll plug your video on it. I couldn't agree more. You have a video where you talked about doing the the calculation on it, right?
Right.
The amount of time and what's being invested one way or another. And I just happen to fall in the same thing. It's about people's bandwidth. What's their time worth? Can you pick up overtime at work? Is that worth more than what you're getting back for your rats?
That's right.
Things like that. So it's just about what you just have to do it like anything, and you have to calculate for yourself what makes the most sense.
Yes.
And it's just,
checking out that video. I did. I put a lot of work into that. I had to figure out at some point, I had to say, what's my time and my energy worth on X, Y, or Z? Not just rats, anything I do. But rats were one of them. And then also one of the things that I had to factor in was, do I want to do it? Like at the end of the day, that was an important consideration.
I have a friend who tells me he doesn't mind doing the rat cleaning. He puts headphones in. It's an escape for him from other things. Awesome. Then you should
then nail it. Go do it.
I'm not interested in doing that. The cleaning is probably one of my least favorite things about this. I'm a clean freak anyway, so I do it. But so I'm not interested in the rat upkeep and housing them somewhere on my property. People have some awesome rat setups that if I ever did, I would probably go the way they're doing it. I've seen some people and looked at it, but it's just not for me. That's all I really can say about it. So yeah, we're feeding frozen, and we move through it. Again, we look at the steps. How many do I heat up at a time? How many steps back and forth to the heat source? All that. So that's how my mind works.
That's that manufacturing part of it. Yeah, that's what I pull to thaw mine the day before. So I do my feeding inventory, make basically a prep list like a kitchen would have of who I'm going to feed what on Saturday night. I pull those rats. Sunday afternoon, I pull them out of the freezer. They're fully thawed. I put them in the room. Same kind of thing you're talking about. So let me see here. I got a couple random notes around a few things, and I'm a little bit remiss in getting to this. We don't need to make a huge deal out of time. You are a veteran-owned company. Thank you so much for your service. I don't want to make it any more or less than what it is. I value it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. So what's the scope? What do you like projections, and what are you looking at in 2023? What are you looking at in 2024? What's your scope of hopeful growth?
Yeah, so we did, like I said, 6 out of 7, I think this year will hit. I think we're targeting somewhere in the 13, 14 range of pairings next year.
Okay.
In terms of the exciting stuff, not just the stats and numbers, but we have chances. We'll start pairing hopefully in the fall. We've got 3 chances at G-Stripe clowns, 3 females in that space. One of which is a quad het for G-Stripe clown, pied, and desert ghost. The male that will be, yeah.
Holy cow! All right.
So
hang on. For the record, you waited 74 minutes to tell us about that animal. Okay.
Yeah, we weren't naturally there, and I don't like to just throw flexing around.
By the way, yeah.
but since we're talking about plans for next year, so this year is a lot of what I think are cool, like I said, double het pairings and stuff to start building out those females, so that next year we've got a lot of chances to hit some, like I said, to hit some visual stuff that's on the higher end. I've got a G-stripe het enhancer female that should be up to size for next year too. So we've got again in the same space with the same male, because the male has clown, G-stripe, and desert ghost that we'd be using as well. He's also leopard, pastel, and Enchi. So we have chances to hit G-stripe desert ghost with her as well, which we made one of. Now it may start to connect with the clutch that we just hit this year was to make females in that space. So we just did the first clutch we hatched from this year was a butter genetic stripe het desert ghost to blackhead calico female. And so in that, what we know so far, we got at least one butter. We sexed one so far. One just shed today, their first shed. We got a butter, butter blackhead, het G-stripe, 50% het for desert ghost. And that was a female. So we did hit all three, butter, blackhead, and calico. We were most excited about the blackhead calico. If you check, not to plug it, but the post over on Instagram, the mom is like, man, she's awesome looking. The mother is this blackhead calico female that we picked up, just 2 codom gene female. But I said, there's so much I felt like we could do with that. Yeah. Because the calico, for whatever reason, makes her almost look super blackhead. I mean, it turned her whole back pretty much jet black.
Oh, yeah. It gets almost like a gravel. Yeah, you're right.
It's like iridescent. It glows like blue and stuff in the light. It's crazy. And then it's high white up the sides with and it took the alien heads and just smeared them into these long streaks down the side. Yeah. And to me, I just think that'll lend really awesome in a G-stripe. Also, if I can get DG to bring up yellows in that, obviously that'll be cool.
Well, yeah, it'll heighten the contrast to the stripes too. I mean,
we got that clutch this year to make hets. That'll be, if we keep a couple females that are het G-stripe, we got the blackhead calico. We did hit a butter blackhead calico. We got a couple of just calico. If we get a couple females from that, we'll keep them to, again, meet us in 24, 25 down the road when we have the visual male. So the name of the game this year was high-level hets. For the G-stripe clown, we did banana Mojave clown to super pastel, banana GHI genetic stripe female, trying to get the minimum there is the pastel double hets, right? But really what I'm hoping for there is the GHI Mojave double het for G-stripe and clown, because that's such a cool high contrast combo. Again, we pick up a female in there, we meet down the road with the visual male too. So that's where we're trying to go. G-stripe clown is a project that I think meets a lot of the things I talked about earlier. It's in demand. There is not much out there yet. I do feel like there's still room to bring something new to it. And I do feel like it's something that's going to have longevity. G-stripe has come and gone and been underrated at times. Clown, as we talked about earlier, though, is a mainstay. So anytime you tag clown onto something else, something else on the clown. Yeah.
I mean, clown and pied are the ranches. I mean, you get all sorts of. You can do Buffalo Ranch. You could do. We could go down that line. But
and the last standard that I kind of have, or the last thing that we look at, not a standard, but the last thing we look at with projects, right, is kind of our entry cost. It's like anything, barriers to entry in any industry, right? Yeah. And do I love Monsoon? Do I believe in that project? Do I think that's going to probably have some staying power? And at least it's got money for several years before it would drop off anyway, because people don't know what it does yet in clown or pied necessarily. Yes, but that's a high entry cost, man. That one. And even Sunset's another one that I've got my eye on now, and I'm looking at it kind of into that. But it's another one that Leviathan's still in here. I'm not 100% on longevity of it. I think there's a ton of potential. There's a ton, man. And with the right combo comes out, that thing's going to take off more than it already is right now. It's getting hot right now. Yeah. If they hit the right things and they get some of the reds and oranges to dial up the way that I think someone will figure out how to do, that thing's going to take off. So I am looking at a chance to try to make some het females in that, so that I have something for later. I'm not left out of that project. I have to buy it later. Yeah. But that's even a male, I think visual is like $5,000 right now for a male visual Sunset. So it's a high entry cost. So, there they are. Yeah. Yeah. I love the Sunset project. I'm starting to come around. I was against it, but man, I'm getting really interested. Some of the stuff that I'm seeing shows more and more promise that they're going to hit something really cool in that.
Well, and Stephen and Courtney's passion for it are incredible. And I mean, I I'm seeing so many things in the comments and so many examples. I got to figure out how to voice this right. It takes the right person to push the right thing. So Tito at Tradesman was talking about his ASFs, and he made a comment. It's already zipped past me.
Yeah.
He sells to a falconer and to an owl owner.
The rats, that's awesome.
Yeah, he figured it out. Okay, there's not enough market here. Well, then I'm going to find it over here.
Yeah.
Stephen and Courtney, not enough people know about sunset. All right, we're going to talk about sunset every day, sun up to sunset. You know, there you go, Stephen. I just made that for you. So it takes that person to do it the right way, and
you need somebody to pump them up. They do.
Yeah.
They got to get the right coverage out there. That's one of the things with Candy Pied. Ozzy's got some Candy Pied stuff out there.
Right.
Garrett DeMeyer recently, Royal Constrictor, posted some cool Candy Pied videos, and he's just talky.
Yeah,
cool stuff to help it. But without it's like, do I think it looks better than? And this is one thing I say about projects in general. Do I think Candy Pied looks better than Lavender Albino? Personally, I like the contrast more.
Right.
Justin and Billy, they're pushing Dreamsicle, and so Dreamsicle sells, man. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I'm not going to be too proud to fight them. I might work on something quietly over here and sneak up on them, but I ain't going to fight them.
One of the things that we talked about earlier, the difference when I talk about being passionate about something is really important, whether it's a hobby or the business. You have to be passionate about the project. However, what I tell people in my limited experience that talk to me about this, if you're doing this strictly as a business, you can't do the breed what you like. You can't just do breed what you like.
Right.
Breed what you like, but also that there's a market for.
Yeah.
So out of what there's a market for, pick something you like in that.
That's
if it's a hobby, breed what you like all day, man. Again, labor of love. It's what you want to do. Have at it. It's awesome. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're trying to do it as a business, you do have to kind of discipline yourself a little bit to pick from what there's a market for too.
Right. Yeah, and that's where the discipline comes, and that's where the secret sauce is, and nobody really knows the answer to, and each person can have a different answer to that sauce. So on the topic of work and life and balance, I've not found anybody that says it better than Kai. And no, by the way, if you all don't know Kai, his handle and his brand is Lucas Landon Royals. Those are his kids' names, similar to Charlie's brand. But Kai is the owner, breeder, operator. I believe he's the one-man show at Lucas Landon Royals. But I had this conversation with him, and he said, don't think about what you could do on your best day. Think about what you could do properly on your very worst day. On the day you have 104-degree fever and 3 of your females are laying, how much can you do that day? And I was like, that's a pretty good point, man.
On that note, though, so like I mentioned earlier, Reagan and I were down with the flu last week. And we had a clutch drop and babies hatch and that was a welcome surprise, and it turned out to be a nice silver lining in the fact that we were both stuck home from school.
Yeah, just a zombie, and
we got to see them hatch and stuff like that. Where otherwise, we would have been coming home after work or school and catching up on the details later. So but it's a great perspective to keep.
Yeah, and I can't say I stick to it because I work my butt off day and night, and I would do less if I were that sick. But what could be, for me, it was a great example. That trip I took last week for work was really unexpected, but it was A, it was needed, and B, it was a very good financial situation for me to go pursue. So leaving snakes for 7 days, and some of them now 8, because I got home and then I hit the road again for a gig the next day. So I had to choose between what I was going to clean or how deep I was going to clean some of them when I got back. And that's been a pretty strong consideration. That's why I asked about holiday planning and vacations and that kind of thing, how it changes being in the hobby.
I'm big into automation, into, Internet of Things at this point, I would say, which is weird. I was very slow on the technology. I was in third world countries most of the time when smartphones were developed and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And BlackBerry was like cool. I came back and everybody was on iPhone 5.
Yeah.
So, it took me a while to catch up, but man, I can check temperatures. I can look in a lot of the tubs with cameras and stuff like that when I'm out. So
cool.
It gives me a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah.
I can adjust almost every device in the house, but that's another story where I'm going to geek out if we get into that. But I can change the temperature in the snake room, turn fans on and off, and lights and everything. So
yeah,
I actually can open a camera in the incubator if I have babies in there and I want to check or pipping eggs. And then I can turn the lights on in the room for better light to see the camera.
Oh, cool.
From my phone at work on lunch. So
I was in a winery. This was in 2011, 2012. So 10 years ago in Woodinville, Washington. And I don't want to geek out too much on wine, but Washington wine is fantastic. And anyhow, Woodinville is this whole kind of warehouse district of wineries, as well as Red Hook Brewing. But there was a gentleman there in those days going, look at this. I could control the thermostat on my fermenting tanks from home. He goes, I get an alarm at 3 a.m. if my wine is too hot, if my yeast is dying. And I was like, I mean, like I said, it was 10 years ago. And I was like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, that's amazing. And that's what we're talking about doing now, which is cool.
Yeah, so that helps a ton with the vacations and stuff for peace of mind. Yeah, we just do a good cleaning, lighter. Don't feed maybe if we're going somewhere, right? And not that we're starving anybody, but don't necessarily push it on feeding sizes or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in better shape when you come back. So
yeah. I've driven a lot of the conversation tonight. What can I answer for you? What can I bring to you? You've been great for us tonight. And same to the audience. We got a little time since I missed last week. My wife has already gone to bed. She's exhausted from me being gone. So I don't have to kiss her goodnight before. I already kissed her goodnight before the show tonight.
Yeah, I honestly, I like that idea. I feel like we've had great conversation. The comments these guys have been awesome, but they've been flying by faster than I can keep up. I feel like we almost feel we neglected them a little bit. I'm all for whatever questions they have.
Guys, what do you have out there? And I'll tell you something that brought me a lot of pride, kind of pulling back the curtain. Charlie and I. So when I book somebody on the show, they probably actually think I'm like this distant guy that's maybe even rude. I hope not. But I don't talk a whole lot to people before they come on the show because I want to get to know them in real time. But one of the things Charlie and I were talking about off air just before we started is he said, once I was booked on the show, I started watching the show. And everybody in your audience is just killer. They all look out for each other. It's a lot of the same similar people coming back. And those are things to me that I think of define a community. And again, why I started the show off with such both gratitude and apology for missing last week. Like, if I could bring this little joy to this little corner of the world, it's just a really cool thing. So kudos to you guys for making a welcome home for me and my guests as well. So I really appreciate that.
I'd like to echo it. Yeah, it was welcoming, I think is the word. So a good friend of mine is Randy from Pope County. He was in the comments earlier. He and I both commented after the first time we jumped in on your live and watched after you and I spoke for the first time.
Yeah.
We commented to each other, man, everybody was so friendly. We said, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? And I think 5 or 6 people right away jumped in. Some other lives you go into, you say hi and you wonder if your comments are working. You're like, is my internet connection bad? Man, like you say hi to people you thought you knew and you don't get a response. Like,
something else too, and I don't know, maybe I'm connecting dots that aren't there. I sensed again, pulling back the curtain, I try and what people don't realize is that I don't run just hey, sign up and you can be on my show. Like I want interesting people, but I want people that I align with as well. And I had approached Charlie. I think I had approached him before. Anyhow, there was a little bit of a tentative thing for him to come on the show. And it's become apparent to me both before the show as well. He was interested in making sure that the show aligned with his brand and his values. And it was apparent to me before the show, but it's become even more apparent tonight. But I think that that's an important thing too. I won't say what it was, but I was on one of these Zoom, like breeder Zoom call deals. And that ain't my brand, turns out, that particular show. It's wildly successful. Does great. Probably would get me plenty of exposure. Just not for me, not the representation I want to have or be aligned with. So I really appreciated your consideration. It meant a lot to me that you did want to come on after I don't know what consideration went into it, but I sensed there was some consideration there.
Yeah, I just like anything, I just want to just scope it out, and it's not to sound arrogant. Who am I? At the end of the day, any exposure to a degree is nice, and I was honored that you asked. But yeah, from knowing much about it initially, does this guy have a bunch of crazy,
Right.
videos of feeding like his pet hamster or something all for like? So I don't want to get caught up in that type of stuff.
Exactly.
What's the type of, am I going to get on and there's going to be some type of I'm not even going to go that route. Is there going to be stuff that I'm not involved in going on?
That's right.
That's right. Take a quick peek at it, and even if so, I mean, to a degree, maybe just to know what I'm getting into, I may still even get involved in a show like that. I have a good friend who does a very different style of show than this, and I've done some with him. I don't get into some of the stuff he gets into, and we draw the line, and we almost make a joke of it. But it's like, at least so I'm aware of what I'm getting into is important.
Yeah, and it's again in different. I think we were talking off stage. After a gig, I might have had 4 whiskeys and be completely sideways. That's not this brand. That's not what this moment is about. That part of my life is not what this is for, and what I come and bring to the table here for. So
I saw a couple questions come by. Do you plan on working any other species other than ball python? We have 2 corn snakes that we don't really plan to ever breed. My wife does have a love for boas, so we do have 4 boas, 1 male, 3 females. And they are set up like a project in case we ever decide to go that route, just learning from the way we started with ball pythons. I just said, you never know, so let's set it up that way. We probably will do at least a couple litters one day, but that's not really a part of, again, talking about the brand. It's not a part of the vision and the brand. Royal Pythons being in the name by no accident to kind of make sure people are clear what we're about instead of just reptiles. No offense to people with just reptiles in the name, but I wanted to be a little more specific and obvious. The boas I'll talk about really quick because they are pretty cool. She does have a blood, which is the male. She has a albino. No, she has a super hypo albino female, call albino. She has a sun glow female, which is a hypo albino visual female. And then the other one is a Nicaraguan that's het albino also, though, but I don't know that that's compatible. So we are looking at the potential of being able to make, say, sun dragons or something like that. Both females kind of work together. So if you get a cool male from one, you can go back to the other.
Go to the other. Yeah.
So,
that's a great question. David's a cool guy. David's an analytical guy, computer developer himself. And, he's reached out to me before. He says, Charlie, do you have a video on your Snake Room tech setup?
I don't. YouTube, man, this is a grind and a science in and of itself, man. I watched a couple of your things. I watched something you did with who is it?
Herp Collectors
maybe recently did a video, I think, where you showing him the metrics and how.
Yeah, I showed my metrics to Gershon for him to learn from.
I am that level of serious about anything I do, and I don't have the time to be that level of serious about YouTube. So this is why I haven't started that, and I don't know that Instagram is the space for a technical video like that.
Right,
it's to be very 30-second bites.
Yeah,
funny stuff. I do try to focus on the genes that we're working with and highlight those and show cool combos. I think I've started to notice some science behind what catches people's interest on there too. I'm no Leviathan with 10,000 something followers. I think they just broke whatever that was. I think they just hit a milestone recently.
I think so, man. They put on a clinic for managing Instagram. I'll tell you that much. The
short answer is I don't have a video on it. I'm happy to, if you want to DM me on Instagram, I'm happy to share the stuff that I have. It's nothing super complex. It's very simple, pretty cheap stuff, but it's working. It's working for me, and it ties into the same smart apps that I have for other devices within the house. So I'm happy to, kind of a nerd about it. I'm happy to BS about it if you want to message me. So.
All right. Yeah. Leviathan said, they hit 10,000.
Congrats, guys.
10,000. That's amazing. And it's a super powerful machine. I mean, you talk about how you're gonna move a new a gene or how you're going to break sunset into the market, man, there's 10,000 ways right there.
Yeah,
I mean, congratulations, guys. And Stephen and Courtney, those of y'all that don't know, Stephen and Courtney have been just phenomenal support to me and early friends in the hobby.
I love that he's a marketing guy too. I'm very heavy on the operations side. I did go back to school. I'm giving a lot of the personals today, but I did go back to school for an MBA. So I've had some exposure to the marketing side. They're rounding me out now in my career. They're involving me in doing cross-functional projects with our sales groups and stuff like that, which is awesome with the organization I'm with. I've been lucky in that way. But I have looked at, I will credit them. I've looked at a couple of the things he's put out about marketing and branding and stuff, and a couple of the conversations that he's done on that, on social media. I think it's Steven over there, right?
Yeah.
And so I am kind of looking and listening to some of the stuff he's put out there because something's working. I mean, they got 10,000 pretty quick. So
yeah, it's definitely working. Yeah, no kidding.
God knows what he's doing, it seems.
So Tradesman says, who else is going to be at Daytona? I for sure will be there. I know Stephen and Courtney. A lot of people will be there. Jeremy will be there. We should do one of these smorgasbord breakfasts there in Daytona. Like, I don't think there's a smorgasbord within 300 miles of Daytona, but maybe one step above a Waffle House somewhere, where we could all hang in Daytona. I was thinking too of doing like. There's a crazy Irish pub that's down the road there. It's open till 3 a.m. I was wondering about trying to book a gig after the auction on Saturday night, and after the auction, we all go over to the pub. I don't know if you guys are interested in something like that. Maybe we can. Not even me. Forget whether I'm performing or not. Just going. I'd rather just go to the pub and hang out. I think from what I hear after the auction, we're all ready for the pub anyway. So I've never been this year, but Rob says don't knock the Waffle House. I am not knocking the Waffle House, my man. I as a traveling musician, I can recite the menu. The country ham, my personal favorite. Scattered, smothered and covered, my man. No knock on the Waffle House, but
somebody asked me to show a single snake.
Yeah.
I if you don't mind, I'd like to do it. I guess I'll do the one that I was talking about earlier, man. The quad. She's a single gene, not much to look at, man, but I'm incredibly proud of this. So
bring it. While you're pulling that snake, guys, what is it? Is it the Hilton or the Hyatt that's right there on the beach? I am booked there. Definitely be hanging out. Won't have to drive. And have all kinds of appropriate fun. All right, tell us about this beast.
So this is it's a single gene pastel, right? Which doesn't really look exactly like a single gene pastel. And this is the quad het female I was referring to earlier, and she's pushing up around 1100 now, so she's getting close to that mark.
And run down the hets one more time for us.
Desert Ghost, G-Stripe, Clown, and Pied. So
look at all of them, yeah. There you
go. Pied being the one I'm actually the least excited about in this, although I have a ton of Pied stuff in my pairing, but I just want that DG G-Stripe Clown to come through, man. That fits into everything else I've got lined up. So, and I do have a male with the hets to go with it. I have an Enchi quad het enhancer Pied G-Stripe Clown male too, which is like 1 in 256 odds or something to hit every.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's lottery stuff, but you got to play it. You got to go for it.
The odds of single and double are still so good, even with the 4 hets in play.
That's the beautiful thing is that you get the high odds. Like even when you miss, you're still crushing it on the next best options.
I wanted to play with the new camera too, so just to see if her colors show up and stuff. But
yeah.
This is the male I actually may wind up putting to her instead of the quad male because, like I said, I'm not as worried about Pied. And so I'll let the audience maybe weigh in if I can on this. This male is only 3 of the hets. He's DG, G-Stripe, and Clown, but he's got 3 codoms. So arguably to me, it's a more exciting pairing. Like I said, I'm not as worried about the Pied. And you have Leopard, Enchi, and Pastel here as well. So it's just all around. If I can get the head stamp.
That's a great looking animal, man. I love the pattern on it. You said it's Pastel, Leopard, Enchi?
Yep.
There
he goes. Now he's in focus.
Yeah. Great shot. Yeah.
So he asked for one, and I showed two because I just couldn't help myself, I guess.
That's okay. It's a snake program. It's good.
So, but yeah, this is what I'm really excited. This is the stuff that's coming in, the end of this year going into 23. So that hopefully, again, and I have a couple females that actually are just like double het, G-stripe clown females and stuff like that too for him to go to. Like I said, the name of the game, I got to get one double visual male, and then it'll be a even if it comes from the double het G-stripe clown females, it'll still be 50% het for DG. Potentially that male is a powerhouse that's going back to all those females the next year or two.
Exactly. Yeah. Or even if you had multiple males that you could rotate through and really increase your odds of with 66% stuff, you would have a higher odds of one of the two of them being what you're after. So, well, guys, we're over 100 minutes in, and probably start packing it up here. I want to tell everybody I took a week off of social media altogether. So I turned my hard week of work into a little social media experiment. I'll do a video on the results of just taking a week off and reflecting on that. Did I need it? Did it hurt me? All that kind of thing. So that'll be coming up soon. I should have clutches soon. Mark from British Columbia Balls on next Tuesday, this time, this place. Again, thank you so much to Chris Shelley from BandSReptilia. Next week, there'll be a new logo up top. Check him out. And then check out Reagan Renee Royal Pythons on Instagram. Blessings to you and your family and everything that y'all have going on. Thank you for being on the show tonight. It's been, honestly, hour and 45 minutes is one of, if not the longest shows I've ever done. So I really appreciate it. I've had a good time tonight, and I'd love to have you back and check out your clutches. Maybe in the fall or the winter, we can look at how all the projections went. What did you hit? You know what I mean? This is a cool thing.
That'd be fun to compare. I do stuff like look at odds 2 beyond, like when you have your 50%. I mean, really, you can calculate the probability that you should hit on those things as well too. So it'd be cool to compare that against what actually panned out.
I tracked that. I tracked it last year. I'll track it again this year. I have a potential 13 clutches this year. So, man, yeah, let's hang out. Let's do it again. And I hope that our paths cross again. Best to you this year, man.
Thank you so much for having me on too. Honestly, this has been awesome. I think that's probably why it went so long. And thanks to everybody who tuned in. They've been great too, like I said earlier.
Thank you very much. Audience, thank you all so much. I found this week I can't do it without you, and I'll do my best not to go missing any more shows. Cheers to everybody. See you next week. I'm going to hit the music. Watch your ears. Charlie, stick around for a minute.